everyone, this is the last of the Fairly Historical videos in this series. I am filming this vlogging style. I have just finished editing the rest of the video, but I wanted to do a bit of an intro so you're not just thrown into me pinning things on a table. The last video has taken some time. I lost motivation partway through, which I think a lot of people will understand, especially now during quarantine, and especially those of us who have some mental health issues and depression, anxiety, and all that stuff. But I said I'm going to finish this, so I finished it. And I think I've said this in I think every video that I've put up on YouTube and even on Facebook. I'm still learning everything about lighting and microphones and cameras and filming and editing and all of the things that go into making videos. And as opposed to trying to learn this stuff and then starting to make videos, you are seeing my process live and in person as I do this. So again, I will always and forever thank you for coming along on this journey. There are a lot of hard cuts in here. I haven't quite figured out transitions. I'm doing voiceover and then I'm talking on speaker. I'm just trying to figure this out, and I have not quite gotten used to scripting everything I say when I am teaching. I'm a little bit more of an improvisational teacher. Anybody that took any of the martial arts classes I used to teach will tell you I can throw out some interesting metaphors and stuff to get people to learn how to do things. So yeah, I don't know if this is considered a tutorial or a vlog or what this series is considered, but if you're watching it, I hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then that's fine by me. Just don't let me know, because that'll make me sad. But I'm fine with that. The next things I have coming up, I'm planning a video on talking about, I'm going to come in so I can hold myself. Well, hurt my arm, won't hurt my arms as much. I am planning a series talking about interpreting history in the Americas, essentially. And what I mean by that is not just interpreting American history, like doing Civil War reenactment or colonial history reenactment, but those of us who, I do 19th century kind of American West reenactment at a historical farm here in Austin, Texas. But I also, my favorite period, I mean, obviously this series is me making a curdle from the 16th century, Northwestern Europe, is the Renaissance. I love it. I love the clothes. I love the aesthetics. It's just kind of, ever since I was a young kid, the Renaissance has always intrigued me. But I live in Texas. I do not live in Northwestern Europe. The climates of these two places are very different. So when you interpret or wear a costume or whatever you want to call it, a piece of clothing from somewhere that's not from where it matches your climate, then so I would say liberties have to be taken. And if somebody gives you crap for it, tell them that I say you can do it. And if they can come fight me, and I will yell at them about how wearing wool in 100-degree heat in Texas is not the best for one's body, especially when you have layers on top of and below. So so I'm doing a video, I'm planning a video series where I'm going to actually have a lot of stuff scripted, and I'm going to have a lot of visual aids and stuff talking about latitude, longitude, his clothing differences here in the States or in the Americas as opposed to clothing differences in Western Europe. I'm not going to speak on things like interpreting in Central Asia or Africa or East Asia or South Asia, or even really in South America. Because that's not where I'm from. That's not what I know about, and that's not my cultural heritage. So I try not to appropriate things and talk about things that is not that are not in my kind of wheelhouse. So that's a series that I have planned coming up. I'll probably just be throwing up videos. I don't have any schedule of when these things go up. Maybe I should do that to become like better at this. But at this point, I just kind of make videos as I can and as I feel like it. If there's something you guys want to learn how to do, let me know. I'm actually teaching a class online next week through the city of Austin. It's called Austin Resource Recovery. So from 10 to 11, you can see me on the internet. You sign up for the class. You will see me. I will be teaching you how to sew by hand. And so I think the classes are free to sign up. But I cannot talk about my YouTube channel in the class because we're not allowed to promote ourselves. But I can talk about the class on the YouTube channel because it's my channel. I can do what I want. So if you want to come learn some simple hand stitching, some of the stitches that I talk about in this, like the running stitch and the basting stitch and the felling stitch, I will be teaching in that class. Woo! let's go this direction so you don't see my messy kitchen. So yeah, this is a really convoluted and strange intro. I don't have an outro for this. It's just me waving by, wearing the outfit. So this is my intro and outro at the same time. Thank you for watching this series. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for, I don't know, being like, Sarah, you can do this, even when I'm like, you guys, this is a little messed up. So anybody that's out there that's watching that doesn't actually know me personally, how you found this, I will never know, as I am a small, tiny little channel. COVID just happened. I watched some of those videos. They were really great. It was really amazing to watch some of the panels with people who are of varying gender. Wait, let me point. There we go. This is my inclusive pride flag. I am cis, but I am queer. So I identify as a gender that I was assigned at birth. I am female. But I always love watching diversity panels of any kind of diversity. There was a panel about, it was just all men, panel about they had trans and non-binary people and agender people. There were panels on things like sewing when you have a disability, if you're in a wheelchair, or crutches, or you're missing a limb. There's one whole video on plus size fashion, which I am just on the cusp of being plus size. I am kind of like the average size female in the United States. So I am short, but I have a large breast, but I don't have a large butt. So, you know, sewing for my unique body shape is always interesting. I'm kind of giving myself side eye in this because of where I'm holding the camera. So the COVID panel was really great this year. The fact that Costume College had to be online this year is sad because we're in quarantine, but the reasoning is terrible. The reasoning that COVID-19 is happening right now is awful. People are dying, and it's a scary time. But the fact that things went online means that more people, like me, could participate. Costume College is something that is a dream of mine, but I could probably never attend because I couldn't really take off from my real life job long enough to attend a weekend-long retreat in another state, and then also paying for the registration fees and hotels and all of that stuff. So having everything go online, the kind of democratization of Costume College was really great for me this year. One of my friends, Courtney, her channel is Opus Eleni. I will put a link to her below. She's really great. If you like medieval stuff, she has a lot of medieval stuff, and she's very intelligent, and she's very fun, and you get to see her cat sometimes too, and you get to see the tornado. So she is a tiny bit of an inspiration for me because she started doing YouTube, and I was like, I also know things. Maybe I should do YouTube. But she's also just like much better at this whole like filming stuff than I am. So Courtney, you're great. I love you. Giving you a shout out. The panels you were on were fantastic. Anything else I need to talk about? I don't think so. Enjoy this video. In this video, I should probably tell you what I'm doing. I am sewing bodice together. I put the binding on the bodice. I cut out the skirt, which is just 2 rectangles of fabric that I sew together. I put the skirt on the bodice, and then I sew the lacing rings on the bodice, and I put it on. That's what I do in this video. I try to walk you through this, and again, I think this is more just like a sewing vlog with a tiny bit of tutorial mixed into it. If you learn something, that's great. If you just kind of watch me sew, that's cool too. I don't actually do any sewing on the machine because the lighting over there in that area is even more difficult than lighting that just keeps switching over here by my desk. So once I figure out better lighting in this apartment, order some more lamps, some more ring lights, and possibly another, that would be my third, tripod to get filming, I'll actually do myself filming me sewing on the machine. So yeah, I'm going to keep this under 10 minutes. Thank you again. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming along with me on this. Thanks for this wobbliness. I don't have it on a tripod. I'm just holding this camera out, and I've switched hands like 3 times so my arms don't get tired. Look, it's my D&D shelf. If you want me to do a video, and this channel is supposed to be about clothing, essentially. But if you want me to talk about RPGs, I can do that too. If you want to talk about like, maybe I should do a video on making a piece of clothing for my D&D character, and we can talk about like clothing for classes. I know somebody's actually doing some work on that, and what people might wear for like what a monk might wear or what a rogue might wear or whatever. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas. So keeping this under 10 minutes. Here's the video. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. Bye. Okay, here is the rest of the flannel. This is what I'm going to make the skirt with. It is folded in selvage to selvage right now, and then I folded that part in half. And this is just about enough to make, well, I'll say just about enough. It is enough to make, for me, the skirt part of the kirtle. What I'm going to do is I am going to cut along this fold right here. I will open up these two pieces of fabric that will come now be two pieces of fabric. I'm going to sew front to back. I'm going to leave a 3 to 4 inch area on one side that is not sewn. Everything else is just going to get sewn by machine. This 3 to 4 inches is going to be the front of the kirtle where this attaches to the bodice piece to leave me some room to actually put it on. And then I'm going to so after I sew up the front and the back, and I will do some hand basting to make, there's segment, I will do some hand basting along the top to do the gathering stitches. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this across the top, I'm going to go sew this, and then I'm going to do the gathering stitches. After I do the gathering stitches, I'm going to pin it to the bodice, then I will baste it to the bodice, and then I will sew it down to the bodice using my machine. Let's see, can't remember I was going to do anything else. Using large, big running stitches, also known as basting stitches, I'm going to make gathering stitches in the top part of the skirt. I'm going to start at the front section. This is what I was talking about when I was leaving a 3 or 4 inch gap. I'm going to make some big, giant running stitches. I'm not trying to make small, tiny little gathers. These are going to be fairly big gathers going from the skirt as it joins to the bodice. And I wish you could see a little better that I'm using a darker brown thread. You can't really tell on here. It's both easy for me to see, and if for some reason something gets left in, it won't be this like bright neon blue or something. So I'm going to make these really large basting or gathering stitches all along the top of the skirt until I get to the back seam. When I get to the back seam, I'm going to start on the back seam right over here. When I get to the back seam, I'm actually going to start from another piece of thread. I like to do this as opposed to having one big long gathering stitch. I like having two pieces that I'm able to pull on independently, so I can pin this part to the center back and then pin this part to the center front, and have two different pieces that I can pull on independently to make the gathers hit where I want them to. So all I'm going to do at this point is make all these gathering stitches, and after I do that, I'm going to take the skirt, I am going to pin the skirt to the bodice top, and then I'll either baste it down or just leave it pinned down and then sew it down with the machine. After that, all I have left to do is hem the skirt and put in the, what are they called? I just lost my brain. They're called lacing rings! Lacing rings, that's what I'm trying to think of. So I'm, as opposed to just having you watch me do these long gathering stitches for, I don't know, the next 5 minutes, I will cut to the next part of the video. When you make sure when you're doing your gathering stitches, this is something that I have done even after years and years of sewing, that you do not let this end, and it's really hard to see, focus, end of your thread come out of the end. You need of here. You still need something to pull on. So I either will tie a thin knot, or I will take this piece of thread and wrap it around a pin and pin it to the front like so. Let me get a pin real quick. So I'll just take, I usually use these plastic headed pins. I like them more so than the, I just wrap it really tightly around here. I don't really tie a knot because I feel like that's just going to be real hard to get off. And then I just pin this down nice and tight. So generally, if you do something like this, it keeps the gathering thread here at the end from pulling through, and then you just are sewing on nothing and making no type of gathering stitches. So I'm going to continue to make these big gathering stitches, first going one way, then going from front to back here, and then going from front to back on the other side. I'm going to gather this up and pin it to the bodice. I'll show you that in just a second. Now you can see my cat's butt, that's Sekhmet's butt. Can you move over? Yeah, come here. Yeah, come here. Yes, come here. Hi, Sekhmet. You gonna get down? Thank you. So, cat interlude aside, I have taken the 5 minutes to do the 2 gathering stitches, well, 2 gathering strands coming from the front to the back to the front, whichever direction is easiest for you. I have them both kind of secured off on the, with these pins. I'm going to show you now how I pin this together. If you haven't noticed, I am experimenting with different filming techniques. Right now I am on my actual desk because I feel like I have a little bit more lighting over here. I just have less room. So everything's an experiment on this YouTube channel, folks. So here we go. So I have the bodice, again, 3 layers, muslin, canvas, flannel. This right here, if I can find it, is the center back. I know this because I marked it because I was going to do boning channels in it. Let me mark it with a pen so you can see what I'm talking about. I originally was going to do boning panels, like I've said before, and I decided not to, not just because I didn't feel like cutting the boning, but also because after I tried this on, once I had all 3 layers put together, I tried it on and realized I liked the structure that it gave me without the boning. So, oops. So right there, that's the center back. If you notice that the green flannel is just a little bit longer than everything else, I did that, just kind of left it on purpose just in case when I was sewing down all of the binding on the other part, stuff kind of got shifted around. I wanted to give myself a little leeway. So we're going to take the center back of the skirt, right side, center back of the bodice, right side, and we're going to pin them together. I'm going to make the skirt part even with the canvas and muslin part of the bodice, not the green part, because I want to be able to catch all 3 layers. And I'm going to pin this down here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, here is the front, this it would be the front left side. I am going to pin it to what is the center front side of our skirt, making these parts, the raw edges even. This is the part of binding that I just kind of kept long. Same reason as before, just in case when I was putting the binding on, if it kind of got a little wonky. So I left myself a little leeway. So I'm going to pin skirt to bodice at the center front. Dropped a pin. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So the right front side of the bodice to the right front side of the skirt. Let me get those up in here so you can see them. Pinning again the raw edges even. If I can do this, there we go. Just dropped a pin earlier. Let's pick that up before Sekhmet thinks. She's never really shown an interest in pins, so I'm not like super concerned about her trying to eat them. So at this point, this is when I'm going to start pulling up the skirt to make everything sort of fit together. This is one end of my gathering stitch. Let me get everything up on to the desk so you can see what's going on. Maybe. I've got this thing all twisted. Give me just a second. I'm going to sort everything out and then I'll put it back on camera. It's easier to do. There we go. Over here where I have a little bit more room. I'm actually right now, I'm tucking the, you can't see this because it's off camera, I'm tucking the bodice inside the skirt so that the skirt is on the outside when I do the gathering. So, bodice, inside skirt, we're ready to gather. I am going to I took out the pin on the back side of this. I am going to grab the thread here and just start pulling on this gathering thread. You can see how easy that is, especially when you have these really big basting stitches. And I've pulled actually a little bit more than I need to. You can see here that the bodice isn't that small, but I always like to pull up a little bit more than I need to so I can pull things back out and fit things how I want them. So right now I'm going to just kind of even this out, pull the center front and back even and straight, and then find the end of this gathering thread again and make sure it doesn't come out this end. There we go. Gathering it up, and I've straightened it out again, so this kind of creates the gathers and where they need to go. I'm going to pin this part down, and then I will do the same thing to the other side. I have to remember that I'm talking right now, so I cannot put pins in my mouth or you will not be able to understand me. So I am pinning this down. After I pin this side down, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and then I will take this to my sewing machine and I will sew this part down. This will be attaching the skirt to the bodice. After we do this, I am going to trim everything down, all the seams and the seam allowances from when I attached the skirt to the bodice. Then I will show you how I plan on covering all of these raw edges. I was very lucky in that the selvage to selvage, I sewed this selvage to selvage, so even these seams in the front, the center back seams, this edge is not raw, it is the selvage edge, so I do not worry about it fraying. You could tack it down. I might do that still, tack it down a little bit right here at the front where we don't have it sewn down, and just tack it down maybe 2 to 3 inches below that so it doesn't kind of flop over. You could do it down the whole thing, kind of fell it down, just it's up to you if you're making something like this. I am not going to do that. I feel like the dress will wear just fine without that being done, and especially after it goes on over a underskirt and over a chemise, we will be definitely fine with any kind of spare fabric just kind of flopping over like this. You won't be able to tell the difference. So I'm going to do the pin this side, I'm going to gather the other side, I'm going to go sew it to my sew it on my sewing machine. Then I will come back and I will show you how I plan on covering the raw edges where the bodice of the kirtle plus the skirt of the kirtle meet, and I'm going to either bind those raw edges or flip them under and or do a zigzag stitch so that we don't get any of these fraying little threads and stuff. So I'm going to do that real quick and then I'll be right back. All right, now we are applying the lacing rings. These are, in fact, very small split ring. I'm trying to, there we go, split key rings. As you can see, I bought them for $1.49 at a dollar store. They are very small. They're not quite as small as a more accurate Renaissance lacing ring would be, but for $1.50, I couldn't quite pass them up because they work very well for this. What I have done is when I attached the skirt, originally my plan was to do binding along the edge, and I decided not to do that because I was both being lazy and wanted to get this project over with. For a lacing ring, right at this point, I'm deciding where I want the lacing ring to go, because when you pull on the ring, when you do the lacing, it will tighten. This is where this brings the front of the bodice together. If you put it on the very edge and you pull, you will see the lacing ring. I hurt my thumb. I was cutting tomatoes and I nearly cut the top tip of my left thumb off. So doing the hand sewing for all of these lacing rings, and at this point, I didn't do any other hand sewing besides sewing on the lacing rings. It was very interesting. Obviously, you don't want to sew around the whole thing because you want to have a gap where you will put the lacing, whatever you decide to use. But I'm making sure at this point that it's about 3/4 to an inch in. I'm also only sewing through anything that is not going to come through the top. I'm sewing through the muslin, I'm sewing through part of it, I'm sewing through the binding, I'm sewing through the canvas, but not the fashion fabric on the front. We don't want any top stitching or anything to show through on that. Most manuscript images and paintings and things that we see from the Renaissance, you have a very flat front where you don't have any seams. And sometimes you do see boning channels and some kirtles and other items, but for the most part, all of the kind of knits and bits and pieces are covered by the fashion fabric. That's why you would have two inner linings or all the boning sewn to the inside of the one singular lining. Same thing with sewing on things like lacing rings. You don't want the stitching to come through the front. So I'm going around just doing a whip stitch, felling stitch, trying to make these nice and tight as close to the ring as possible so it doesn't move around a lot. You see that I sew from here. I'm trying to sew a close up. I've started here and I'm going to sew up to there. That gives us enough room to put the actual lacing through. So you don't watch me doing all this hand sewing. Here I'm just trying to figure out the placement for the other 4 lacing rings. I'm deciding how many lacing rings I want to do. With this size lacing ring and this size bodice, placing the lacing rings close to like half an inch apart, or sorry, 3/4 inch apart. I can fit 5 lacing rings on here. What I do the same thing on the other side, and I put them in the exact same positions. You can do them off center if you would like, but this is such a short and small bodice that even doing spiral lacing, you're not going to see that much of a difference if you don't have offset lacing rings. If you're doing smaller lacing rings or you're doing actual eyelets, you might want to do off center because that's when you can really tell the difference in the lacing. But since this is such a larger amount of lacing, here's where I talk about a fee skirt where I said, no, I'm really not going to do the binding. I kind of got lazy. Normally I would turn this under, or I would do some sort of binding and cover up the raw edges. But like I said before, I wanted to get this project done. So the most I'm going to do is just turn under the binding from the front and finish that off so it's not dangling. And so we get a little bit of coverage on the raw edge of the front. But at this point, I just wanted to get this project over with. I sew on the lacing rings. That's the last I have to do with this. I've already hemmed it. And this is the outside of my apartment. Here I am in some sort of pseudo-historical outfit. I picked up just one of, actually, this is an incorrect chemise. It's one of my 19th century chemises. But I have on a petticoat underneath this. I have this laced up. I've pulled my hair up in some muslin. You can see how the offset lacing actually doesn't make that big of a difference with these particular lacing rings. My boobs look okay. They look all right. I put this on again with a different chemise and it looks much better. You can see how the petticoat makes the skirt nice and full, even though the actual skirt itself isn't as full as I would like it to be because I just used the leftover of this fabric. I don't have any shoes on because it's summer in Texas. I don't have an outro. That's me saying bye, and I will see you again soon.